Having the sort of interaction with hotels, I decided to move on to technology because I thought the creativity side of it is really more fun. Biggest challenge would be making sure that you could still attract the right people to believe in your vision and to drive it all the way, regardless of what happens. A lot of Filipinos are leaving Philippines to bring their skills and talents outside, rightfully so because of income, right? I think the disparity would be that if we bring in businesses, we want to invest in the Philippines. If you want to invest in the Philippines, you got to bring in the right business and the right partnerships.
How were you like growing up as a kid?
I was born in a household where my mom's my rock, and obviously dad wasn't around most of the time, and my grandfather was, they said, the guy that kind of shaped me into what I am. But I look to him because he was in business, and he started as a policeman, you know, before the Second World War, and slowly from a policeman, he was in the anti-Japanese army and moved on to business, and he built the business stage by stage, you know, doing refrigeration business, you know, Calvinator, that's one of those old products. And then he did bags, leather bags distribution, you know. So every time I see him coming back home, he's bringing all kinds of stuff like, hey, this is from France, this is from Hong Kong, or whatever. You know, it's so funny when I remembered he brought home the first Giordano product, and he's like, oh, we're gonna get a distribution rights to distribute Giordano. Okay, sure. I didn't understand much except looking at the products, right? But I realized that he's always doing business, helping people, and I try to learn from what he's done in the past, you know, and sadly he's passed on, you know, but he's taught me a lot about being responsible and not just as a man for the house, but also for your family and the business that you run and the people that you need to take care of. Yeah, so that was, of course, my show is not about business, but it's almost sound like, but it was interesting because I knew my dad to be a businessman as well. My mom runs her own business, you know, yeah. So essentially, I grew up in a household where everyone's always talking about deal flows, and so I hear these conversations, and I thought, hey, doing business is interesting, you know. So I've never really, after working for different hospitality and F&B companies, I decided that I should jump into running my own thing. So that's where I went.
What were your hobbies and interests when you were a kid?
So I was in a band when I was in my youth days. Yeah, so music is a big thing for me. So playing guitar, piano, drums, whatever, and I guess jamming, singing, that type of thing, right? So yeah, and I remember listening to Elvis, in my first album, Blue Hawaii. My mom introduced me to music, and Elvis Presley, obviously. So I really liked music when I was young, and being the only child, you're kind of like at home singing to yourself, right? Yeah, and that's one big part of it. And oddly, I learned how to iron clothes because it's, you know, it's just fun. Then in my teenage years, of course, sports became, so I played tennis, a lot of tennis, some soccer, you know, type of thing, and then windsurfing stuff. Yeah, so that was it for sports. Gather around the mahjong table, watching the adults play mahjong. And we traveled quite a fair bit as well as a family, going to different parts of Asia, and so mostly that.
Did you ever feel alone as you're an only child?
No, I've tons of cousins. And of course friends, that helps. And no, not really. I don't feel lonely in that sense, and I think I'm pretty good with even just having some alone time. So I'm someone that could watch a movie by myself. Yeah, I'll travel alone at times. So I think that's sort of like how I'm built, I guess. Yeah. So I either want to be a policeman, which I did, by the way, tried to, and my mom said no. Okay, never mind. And I wanted to work in a hotel, which I did. Yeah. So in my younger years, we eat out a lot. So obviously went to hotels for buffets and stuff like that. And I thought, hey, it'd be cool to work in a hotel. This is one of my hotel attachments. This particular hotel we're in. Yeah. But I think having the sort of interaction with hotels, I decided to move on to technology because I thought the creativity side of it is really more fun in a sense. Yeah. So, yes. So I moved away from being a policeman or a hotelier into business. Yeah.
What was the biggest challenge that you've encountered in your career life?
I think when I was working for people, I never really quite, they sort of like, maybe they looked at me from a different perspective. I look at it like, hey, when you do something, you know, you got to treat it like your own business, right? But with that attitude, you, one way or the other, you're going to offend certain people. It's like, oh, you're doing too much. You know, why are you trying to spoil the market, right? Sort of thing. And I think that's sort of where I thought, hey, let's move away from having to always deal with stuff like that by being able to run your business, you know. And I was training myself to be more patient with also listening to other people's opinion, right, as opposed to doing things my own way. And I think during the course of working for other people, I didn't really see that before. And then when you started running your own business, you go, oh yeah, okay, that was me. Looking at this particular staff that you have or colleague that you have, you go like, okay, I can recognize my old ways or when I was younger, right? So I think that, and moving into running your own business challenges, great, man. It's anything you can think of, right? From financing your business, making sure that your cash flow's there, your business ideas are bought in by the right group of people. And I had a mentor, Chow Boon, and he's a rather prolific figure in the VC world. And he's always told me that you need to surround yourself with people that could do the things that you can't do, okay? And I know that I'm not going to say, you know, I'm not Einstein, obviously, so I need people to be able to do the things that make the business work. You know, it's not for me to say, oh, I want to shine or whatever. It has to be bringing in the right partners, parties into the business and part of your life. You share your life, your business, and everything with the right stakeholders and partners. You know, and they come in, they join you, and you have the right ones. You have the ones that are not so, you know, sometimes it skips your attention, right? And the challenges could range from any of those that I described. But I think the biggest challenge would be that making sure that you could still attract the right people to believe in your vision and to drive it all the way, regardless of what happens, right? Pandemic or cash flow or misunderstanding, you know. And earlier you saw Leslie's like one of my partners, and sometimes we have a lot of disagreement. You know, you shout at each other. you said you just sharpen each other, right? You know, things that you thought would be important. So I see that as a long-term learning. Yeah, and in that's how you humble yourself too. The first job proper that I did was I was in the Singapore hotel school, right? And I told my CEO that I want to leave Singapore to find attachments overseas. And he's like, no one's asked me that before. I said, yeah, I thought that it's so limiting, the hotels in Singapore. Then he said, which one do you have in mind? I said, Club Med. He's like, okay, you're gonna have fun, you're not gonna work, right? I'm like, no, I think they have a great program. So I went for an interview. He said, if you could get the acceptance from Club Med, you could go. Okay. I sought the chef de village, I spoke to him, and he said, okay, I'll give you guys a shot. So I went, and that was the first overseas job that I had. And at the point in time, I was 19, turning 20. So it was fun to be able to travel to Phuket to be working full-time in Club Med Phuket. Met so many great people, crazy bunch of people, but it was good learning culture, way of working, style of working, you know, and then having to understand how to work with people all over the world, right? And the types of people that you face, the customers that you face, and situations that you face. So that was my initial. The second one was, I think when I went for this interview with a company, a bakery chain, I won't mention name. It took 2 years for the interview. That's so hilarious. Went back and forth, and then finally they hired me as a senior vice president for the business. And I was doing different projects, launching different F&B concepts, clubs in Singapore, and then did some projects for them in North Asia, stuff like that. So it was fun learning, and that set me up to further develop the F&B consulting that I was running for a while, right? So I created my own F&B concepts. That was crazy. Trying to run your own restaurant, your own kitchen, hiring very emotional people like chefs and bartender, you know, and then learning to manage the business from an entrepreneur point of view. And as that progressed along, I took some hiatus. I work at a volunteer organization to help at-risk people or at-risk families from victims of the Aceh tsunami, and also here in Singapore locally, kids from, you know, dropouts from school, prisoners, they call it ex-offenders today. Yeah, I was doing all that during that 2-3 years in the volunteer company. But I was fundraising to support projects and programs for them. So it's a big change for me at that point in time. But because of my relationship with a lot of F&B owners and friends, I was able to get these guys all hired. Most of them, you know, placements into restaurant chains and bars and bakeries and kitchens. Yeah, and then subsequently I moved into technology. So I learned the ropes, got myself certified with FirstData, and learned how to integrate technology in businesses. So food obviously was the first thing that came to mind, from payment space to even the equipments that are more high-tech, you know, to support the operations for cooking and all. And moving into then where I am today, using blockchain and technology to run the farming business. Yeah.
So what is it about Oz that resonated with you the most?
I think when the founder of Oz spoke to me and said, look, what is so different about projects today, right? It either has something real or it doesn't, right? So let's create something great together. And I look at his project and I went like, yeah, I believe in what he's trying to do. And what Vin's a great guy, and he has a good vision, a good heart to want to create communities, create employment, you know, getting zones developed, very big plans, right? And getting partnerships with Starlink and stuff like that. So great plans. And I said, hey, I could bring what is the basic level of foundation in farming, food manufacturing, and the intrinsic needs of what people need. So he provides living, we provide eating. So, you know, in the case farming as well. So that merges, it emerged from the perspective, and we said it has to have evidence that's real. So the tokenization of what Oz Living is doing, you know, as a e-citizenship product resonates with how we can then translate that into, hey, do you want to run a business here in Philippines? So we have container farms. You can run that business and supply vegetables or prawns or fish to the community or to manufacturers, right? Or you could sell it to, you know, SM Mart, to Pogo, whatever you want to supply to. But at the same time, because there are other projects that I shared with you earlier, vending machines could be one. So we could put food vending machines or coffee or, you know, grocery vending machines in locations that creates greater distribution for people, right? That doesn't mean that it cuts away jobs in between, but people still need to stock those vending machines up so we can still create employment again for people. And those who want to run a vending machine business could buy the NFTs and operate the vending machine, or we could operate for them. So everything that we thought through together, from creating NFTs in the space of food and manufacturing, coincides with what he can provide as an access. We thought, what better opportunity to then partner up with Vinside would be able to provide these guys coming into Philippines and say, this is the business that you can operate out from in Philippines. And huge market, over 100 million people, 40% middle income, and it's growing. And with new president policies, would attract global markets that are coming into Philippines, and we see that as a next great 6 years for Philippines. And we're very supportive of wanting to expand new businesses and bring in technology. There are a lot of requirements and needs in all these regions that are growing, in Clark, in Cavite, and every time we talk to a business, a partner or entrepreneur from Philippines, they're all very forward-looking, and I see us being able to partner with Oz Living to keep providing more access and bring right talents to Philippines. A lot of Filipinos are leaving Philippines to bring their skills and talents outside, and rightfully so because of income, right? So I think the disparity would be that if we bring in businesses, we want to invest in Philippines. If you want to invest in Philippines, you got to bring in the right business and the right partnerships who is willing to pour in great investments into Philippines in general. So Oz Living, we want them to also curate the right kind of investors to come into, and that's only on people who are really serious and sincere about wanting to live there, set up a business, and operate out from the Philippines. Yeah.
Jeremy, you're so phenomenal. Thank you so much for sharing your purpose, your
No
story, and your journey with us.
Yeah.
And inspiring many. So we really appreciate it.
I hope everyone put their share in and make it together, right? So it's not just for Philippines, but every country in Asia should, as a post-pandemic strategy, think of how you want to grow your business, bring and reach greater heights.